I won one Formula One race in my life. Only one. It was Suzuka in 1989. And even that one, most people will tell you, I did not really win. That is where my story usually starts. And that is where my story usually ends. But there is another way to tell it. A way I have never told anyone properly. My whole career can be described in 5 moments. 5 moments where something appeared in my rearview mirror. 5 yellow helmets that came from nowhere and rewrote everything. The first yellow helmet gave me my only Formula One victory. The last yellow helmet made me stop wearing one forever. Between them, 3 more helmets appeared. Each one changed what came next. Let me tell you who I am, before I tell you about the helmets. I raced Formula One from 1986 to 1990. 78 Grand Prix. 1 win. 9 podiums. Ferrari wanted me for the following season. Then, on the 12th of October 1990, a helicopter rotor cut off my right forearm below the elbow. Formula One was over. I was 31 years old, but the yellow helmets kept coming, and I want to tell you about all of them. Suzuka, the 22nd of October 1989, the second to last race of the season. Not the final one. That detail matters because most people remember it wrong. Ayrton Senna was chasing the World Championship. He was 16 points behind Alain Prost. He needed to win in Japan and win in Australia to keep his title. Nothing less would do. I was driving my Benetton. I was leading the race in the final laps. Senna had already had his famous collision with Prost at the chicane. Prost had walked away from his car. Senna had bump-started his McLaren and rejoined the race. He was catching me. Fast. Suddenly he arrives, from nowhere. A yellow helmet in my mirror. He passed me on the final laps. He crossed the line first. I crossed the line second. I climbed onto the podium in second place. I was smiling because it had been a good race. It was one of my best drives of the year. Then, while I was still on the podium, the officials made an announcement. Senna had been disqualified. He had cut the chicane after the collision. He should not have rejoined the race. I was the winner. I looked, according to the journalist there that day, a little confused. That is fair. I was confused. Because in the space of 5 minutes, I went from being proud of a hard-fought second place to being handed a victory I did not earn on the track. That was my first Formula One win. It was also my last. 78 races in my career, only 1 win, and that 1 win most people remember as the day Senna was disqualified. Few remember it as the day Nannini won. The first yellow helmet gave me a trophy. It also gave me a label I would carry for the rest of my life. The man who won when someone else was punished. The strange thing about Suzuka is what happened after. That borrowed win, the one nobody counted as real, opened the biggest door of my life. 1990. My best season. I was driving for Benetton, alongside Nelson Piquet. I finished third at the Spanish Grand Prix. I finished second at the German Grand Prix. At Hungary, I was running second and chasing the win when another driver pushed me out of the race, but I will come back to that. Autocourse called me the most improved driver of the season. Then Ferrari came calling. Let me tell you what that means to a boy born in Siena. I grew up in Tuscany. My family owned the most famous bakery in the city. My sister Gianna became one of the biggest rock singers in Italy. Being a Nannini in Siena already meant something. But being told Ferrari, the Italian team, the red team, wanted me for 1991, that was a story you only heard in dreams. I said yes. We were deep into negotiations by the summer. I believed my future was going to be red. Looking back, the second yellow helmet in my mirror was different from all the others. The other 4 came from outside the track, from other drivers, from the sky, from nowhere. The red helmet was different. This one I welcomed. I put it in my own mirror, and here is the part that hurts. 3 months before the accident that ended my Formula One career, I believed my best years were still ahead of me. I believed I was going to Ferrari. My 31st birthday race was still ahead of me. My whole life, from the moment I sat in a rally car as a teenager, was pointing toward that one moment. I did not know it was the last 3 months of me believing all of it. Bello Sguardo, a field outside the family villa, between Florence and Siena. Friday, the 12th of October, 1990. Just before 3 in the afternoon. My private helicopter was coming in to land. My wife was watching. My parents were watching. My brother was watching. On board with me were the pilot and 2 friends, Federico Federici and Giuseppe Brancadori. Something went wrong on the descent. The helicopter hit the ground. The rotor kept turning. The blade cut through my right forearm, below the elbow. I stayed conscious the whole time. That is what the newspaper reports the next day said, and it is true. I remember everything. I was awake when they put me in the ambulance. I was awake when they took me to hospital. Then they put me in a hospital bed, and I jumped out of it again, screaming with pain. My wife did not lose control. She made the calls that mattered. In the end, the operation happened right there in Florence. Over 10 hours of microsurgery, the doctors sewed my forearm back on. I lived, I kept my arm, but shortly after, Nelson Piquet, my Benetton teammate that year, came to visit me at the hospital. Nelson gave me advice that was hard to hear. He knew a friend who had lost a limb and had it reattached. Nelson told me it would be better if the arm was gone. I chose to keep it. But I only recovered partial use of the hand. I would never meet the medical standards to race Formula One again. Ferrari gave me a test at Fiorano in 1992, 38 laps with a modified steering wheel. It was a gesture. The door had already closed. 4 years passed. I rebuilt myself in touring cars. Alfa Romeo, Italian Super Touring in 1992, third in the championship in my comeback year. Then DTM in Germany with the Alfa 155 V6 Ti. By 1994, I was fighting for the DTM title. 4 wins early in the season. I was the man everyone in Italy was watching. If I won DTM, an Italian driver would beat all the Germans on their home soil. Let me tell you what that meant to me at the time. Can you imagine what it would have been like if us spaghetti eaters had socked it to the Germans on their home territory? It would have been like them coming over to us and beating up the Pope. Then came Singen, the hairpin. Roland Asch, driving a Mercedes, took me out. To me it looked deliberate. It looked like a strategy. Remove Nannini so his Mercedes teammate could take the title. I lost the race. That corner destroyed my title hopes. 4 years earlier, at Hungary in 1990, Ayrton Senna had done something similar to me. He had turfed me out of a race I would have won. I had been furious. I had never forgotten. At Singen, I did not accept it. I went back to the pits. I put on fresh tires. I went out again and I chased Roland Asch through the field. When I caught him, I waited until the same hairpin. Then I hit him so hard his Alpha burst into flames. In that moment, I understood something. I reacted the way I once hated seeing others react. The 4th yellow helmet in my mirror was my own reflection. After Singen, I understood something. As long as I kept racing, another yellow helmet would always be coming. Another corner, another driver, another moment I could not control. So I stopped looking in the mirror. I did a few more seasons with Alfa Romeo. In the International Touring Car Championship in 1996, I had 7 wins, more than any other driver that year. I still finished 3rd in the championship. Always close, never quite there. In 1997, I drove 1 season for Mercedes in the FIA GT Championship. I won a race at Suzuka, same track where the very first yellow helmet had come into my mirror 8 years earlier. The circle closed itself. Then I took the helmet off. No press conference. No farewell tour. I just stopped. After the helicopter, I was out for a long time and forgot about racing. The right people came along, they put me in a car with a special gearbox for hand controls, and I found I was still as competitive as before. But then, I have family, I have children, and now work, so I decided not to continue in racing from there on. I went back to Siena. I took over my family's historic coffee business. Caffè Nannini, branches in Italian cities, and now as far as Indonesia. My sister Gianna kept singing rock music across Europe. She had written a song for me after the accident. 2 Nanninis, 2 kinds of speed. In 2007, after 10 years of silence, I got behind the wheel one more time for a historical event. I did not sign up for another race after that. That was the end. The 5th yellow helmet was the absence of all yellow helmets, and it was the one battle I was glad to lose. So, what does a man do when he no longer has a mirror to look into? I could have chosen for the name Nannini to mean the Formula One championship I almost had, the Ferrari seat I almost took, the career I almost had, if it were not for one afternoon on the 12th of October 1990. Almost is the easiest word to hide behind. I did not choose almost. I chose coffee, I chose Siena, I chose a right forearm that works partially, and a life that works fully. The name Nannini today means a small coffee shop in Tuscany, where the people who walk in do not know I ever drove a Formula One car. That is what I wanted most. The last yellow helmet, the one that mattered, was the one I took off myself.